Microsoft is not a force in phones. It's not a trusted company. They're not even using the Nokia name, so they lose what little sort of bit of respectability that Nokia had left.
Don't talk to me about Nokia.
It's no secret that Microsoft has had a hard time over the last few years when it comes to phones, but should it give up completely and let Apple and Samsung have all the fun? With me is Rich Trenholm of CNET fame, who
Hello.
doesn't think that's the case. You think there's still life in Windows on mobiles?
Oh, absolutely. I'm a huge fan of Windows Phone. I have been for years. I think there's more than life in Windows Phone. I think it's only going to get better.
Why?
Why? Well, for many reasons. I mean, it's been around for a few years, that's true, and it has still been a distant third most of that time. Very distant, in most markets, that is true. But the whole point of being Microsoft is that you can stay the course. We're not talking about Ubuntu, we're not talking about Yotaphone, we're not talking about some tiny little player. We're talking about one of the biggest companies in the world. They've got all the money in the world, and they can continue to stay the course and keep building this platform up. And they need to be in mobile. Let's face it, mobile is such a big thing. They need to be in mobile, they need to stick with Windows Phone, and it's going to only get better.
You may have a point about having to stay in mobile, but I think you're wrong when you say that Microsoft is big enough that it can stay the course. Like, Microsoft does have a lot of money and all like that, but you know, the tech history books are full of companies that people thought were too big to fail, and then they failed. Like you know, including sort of Apple when it fell on hard times and sort of had to make a comeback. And Microsoft would be wise, I think, to learn the lessons from Apple when it was struggling and not sort of spread itself too thin and not put too much effort into something that's clearly not working and hasn't been working for years.
But this is the thing. It hasn't been working on current terms, but the thing is, we're looking forward to Windows 10.
Right.
And that's going to be the point where Microsoft has one set of software across all devices. And that's kind of been a holy grail for mobile. It's almost like this is the first chapter of the mobile era, where we've had iOS and OS 10 as separate things. We've had Android and the internet as separate things. We've had, you know, mobile phones and laptops and computers and PCs as separate things. But when Windows 10 comes along, then we're going to have Windows on your mobile, Windows on your laptop, and it's going to be the same thing. They're not even going to have numbered releases anymore. They're not going to have Windows 10 and then Windows 11 and then Windows 12. They're just going to have Windows, and it upgrades all the time, and it's across all your devices. You have universal apps, and that's going to be the killer, is the fact that you can have universal apps.
There's more to it than that. Like, I don't think it matters if Microsoft gets that right. I think it'll be something that it could be something that it gets completely right, but that nobody buys anyway, because people don't look at phones and think, what? I can use multiple apps across the platform. That's so exciting. People don't buy iOS and they don't buy Android. They buy Apple and Samsung, and Microsoft is not a force in phones. It's not a trusted company. They're not even using the Nokia name, so they lose what little sort of bit of respectability that Nokia had left.
Don't talk to me about Nokia. Gets me right there every single time. Little tear for Nokia.
But no, it's hardware is really important, and Microsoft has not made a really compelling Lumia phone. Like, Microsoft hadn't made one in ages. It's been so long since we saw a Windows Phone flagship, or any Windows Phone that really looked interesting or different. And so I don't think it matters how good the software is or how well it works across multiple devices if basically no one's interested.
Possibly, yeah. But on the other hand, Windows Phone, it is on the up. It's up to 10% market share in the first quarter of 2015 in Spain, France, Italy, Germany, and the UK. And those are countries in which Android is declining.
Statistics.
You can prove anything with facts.
You can prove anything with facts. Well, I was reading another bit of research I think came out, I think it was IDC.
Yeah.
It came out in February. Bit of analysis that showed that Windows Phone was growing, but slower than the other major operating systems, like growing slower than.
Oh, well, you see,
Android.
slow and steady wins the race.
Slow and steady isn't winning the race. That's the thing.
Turtle in the hair.
Look.
Tortoise in the hair.
If I'm
Badger in the hair? I can't remember what the animal is.
Stop, you're listing animals and it's distracting me because I enjoy thinking about animals and you know that. It's underhanded politics, Richard.
It was a porpoise.
Stop it.
The porpoise in the hair, that was it, yeah.
That's it, the porpoise in the hair.
So I think ultimately the bottom line about Windows is that it's the most future-proofed interface, the most future-proofed experience. Because you look at iOS, for example, it hasn't changed since the iPhone first came out, and it is still what it's always been, which is little tiny icons that don't tell you anything. Whereas Windows and Windows Phone, you've got this, with the colourful square live tiles, you've got the kind of the icon system that's small enough to work on small screens, but they still tell you stuff, and it scales up to different size screens with Windows on your PC. So where you've got iOS, which is your little icons don't tell you anything, and then OS 10 on your laptop, and it's a completely different separated experience. And iOS is half fat, stripped down, cut down, sawn off, hobbled experience compared to OS 10. Windows, you've got this much smoother transition across both, and it's the difference between a library and a newsagent. So iOS is a library. You go in and you can see a lot of spines, you can see all the books, but you can't tell anything about them. Whereas you go into a newsagent and you can see all of the magazines, but you can also see the covers and you can tell a little bit about them. You can see the covers of the magazines. For younger viewers, magazines like a website printed out and stapled together. But so so Windows is just a much more future-proof experience. So looking to the future, Microsoft has all to play for.
Well, I mean, looking to the future, like iOS is stripped down and it is like not as feature
Hobbled.
rich and it's hobbled in terms of
Crippled.
its whatever. But it is also like more popular than Oxygen. Like it's just people love it and they use it and they like it. I'm not saying
people like Coldplay.
I'm not saying.
What do people know?
I'm not saying that Windows Phone is bad, or that if tomorrow we magically replaced everyone's phones with Windows phones, they wouldn't be better off, because I think maybe they would. But I'm just saying, I think from Microsoft's point of view, like maybe it's time to call time, on a failed experiment.
Well, I disagree.
Okay.
But
All
there you
right. Okay. So let us know what you think. We want to know your thoughts on what Microsoft should do with its smartphone business. So do let us know in the comments. All right. Thank you for watching.